Dave Whitlock said that if there was only one fly that he could keep, it would be his fox squirrel nymph. And he tied that fly in 6 variations. This is the bead head variation. I am using a glass bead, gold glass bead, so there isn't a lot of weight from the bead. If I used a tungsten bead, it would be heavier. In either case, I am putting a little bit of weighted wire to help this nymph sink. I'm going to tie it with orange thread, although it could be tied with black or maybe some other colors as well. Orange works well because it matches the color of the fox squirrel hair. The tail on this fox squirrel nymph is the back hairs from a fox squirrel. Just grab a pinch, cut it off the hide, and it is a nymph, so it doesn't have a real long tail. And wrap up over those. I'll pull forward just a little bit on those fibers as I wrap back to make sure that they stay on top. And then I can clip out these fibers that are hanging out here over the bead. I'm not so concerned about the fibers there because I am going to put a thorax on it, but I don't want them out over the eye of the hook. So I'll just wrap in over those to keep them in place. Bring my thread back here to the tail. For the body, I am combining the belly hair from the fox squirrel, which we call that red, although you can see it's kind of more an orange. And I'm combining that with a sparkle dubbing. The abdomen does have a rib, so I'm going to first tie in a piece of this oval gold tinsel. You could use this tinsel or you can use gold wire. Whitlock says that the ribbing is less about segments as it is about adding some translucence, he says. Now I'm ready to spin my dubbing onto my thread. Try to get a nice tight tapered noodle. And if I have too much dubbing, that's okay. I can just split some off and then try to taper that abdomen about half of the hook shank. Take that off, and then I'll wrap that gold ribbing up over the top of that. I did counter wrap it because I like to go against the direction that the dubbing is wrapped. That way it stays on top rather than going down in between the wraps. So a few wraps over, a few wraps under, then I can clip that ribbing out. If it was wire, I'd helicopter it, but tinsel I'll clip out. And then I'm just going to trim off some of these longer guard hairs on the abdomen. Be careful not to cut my thread. The thorax is the back hairs So I'm going to cut off a few of those. Make sure I get the fluffy stuff underneath. Spread that out on my thread. Spin it on. A little bit of moisture helps. Probably if I had some wax, that would even be better. I'll have to get some wax sometime. And what I'm working for here is to have those guard hairs stick up and stick out to create the legs. So the variation where legs are hackled on is used only on the larger of the flies. On the smaller ones, it's just the guard hairs from the back in that thorax that create the hair, the legs on this nymph. And then I can just wrap behind the bead. And I'm going to put some head cement on that knot. I do use a diluted goop. Stick a needle in my goop, get a drop that onto the thread, and that'll soak in. This is Dave Whitlock's Fox Squirrel Nymph with a bead head.